Remember on the last episode of Carnage where we drove the ute to Summernats and made over 1,000 kilowatts at the rear? Well, we didn't make it back. So, on the last episode of Carnage, we did something pretty big. Maybe unprecedented, we don't know. As Donald Trump would say, it was huge. Maybe the greatest thing that ever happened in the history of Summernats. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't that much, but for us it was pretty big. We drove the ute to Summernats with the aim of making 1,000 horsepower at the rear. Well, we went one better. Actually, we went two better when you think about it, because we made 1,000 kilowatts at the rear twice. So not only did we do it in qualifying, but we made the finals as well and come third in the forced induction V8 class. That was pretty big. I mean, I have been going to Summernats for a lot of years, covering Horsepower Heroes, and the fact that we made it into the finals at Horsepower Heroes, which is pretty tough, I've got to say. Making it in the finals and making over 1,000 kilowatts at the rear, to me, that was pretty huge. Unfortunately, we had some tough competition. We had Abe from MPW with his XF with the Godzilla in it. It made over 1,700 horsepower. And then we had Lee Povey come down from Queensland with his Kenda spec VL Commodore. It's got a twin turbo LS in it, and that thing runs deep into the sevens, like low sevens. It runs, 470s on the 8th, and that thing went 2,100 horsepower at the rear. So we had some steep competition because this car is definitely not made for those power levels. Still, we did pretty good. We drove to Summernats, we made the power that we wanted, made more than we wanted, and then we drove it home. Almost made it. So somewhere out there on the road, I've hit something underneath. Now the sump doesn't really show evidence of a hit against it, but I certainly hit something, and after that, it looks like it's hit the exhaust, but maybe it's shocked the sump, I don't know, but something's happened and we've got a crack in the sump and it's leaking profusely. So let's lift it up and have a look at that. I'm going to tip some oil into it so you can see what's going on. So we were travelling quite well down the freeway and we got down near Seymour, and I was kind of bored at the time, to be honest, and checking the various pages on the screen and wasn't paying the attention, and something thumped up under the car. I think it's actually hit on the exhaust, but after that I started smelling oil, and the whole underside of the car is fairly coated in oil. But yeah, I could start smelling this burning oil smell, and I'm like, that's not great. So I let that go for about 30k or so, and then pulled in at the service station at Wallen on the north side of Melbourne. So big BP service station. Pulled in at the pump there, lifted the bonnet, saw I'd popped a little thing off, a little cap off a rocker cover, and thought maybe that was, spraying out just a little spit of oil on the exhaust. And then it started raining, started sprinkling. So I thought, I'll push the car under the cover. So I pushed it under the cover near the pump there, and there's this big pool of oil there, like about 12 inches round on the ground, and like, oh, okay, our problem is bigger than just something little spitting. So we took it up the other end, jacked it up on jack stands, and yeah, saw this basically. So you wipe the oil away and it just appears again, and if you come around the back here and have a look, it's actually got a split that's about 6 to 8 inches long. But yeah, I don't know if, because it obviously hasn't impacted the sump directly, but yeah, whether it's stressed it in some way, I don't know, but we've got quite a big split there and it just keeps leaking. So especially when it was full of oil, you know, we'd wipe it and it'd just immediately appear again. Actually, you can see it appearing again now. I've put thicker oil than we normally would run in this because, you know, it was only going to waste anyway. But yeah, she's just keeps coming out. So yeah, that is less than optimal. So, as you can see, it's had a fairly heavy dose of oil under the car. It's not rusting anytime soon. Somewhere along the line and somewhere near Seymour is what I remember, because it was fine. It was like no smells, nothing. The car was running mint all the way down to Seymour, which is only just north of Melbourne. And yeah, she was all good until I had that big thump under the car, and after that, I started smelling oil quite a lot. And it was coming out a lot quicker than this. When we actually discovered the problem, you know, I've tipped some fairly heavy oil into it just then to demonstrate, but what we were using out on the road, you know, the Penrite Racing 15 that we tend to favour for this car, it was hot at the time, you know, so it had been running for hours, and it's a bit thinner to start off with, so that was coming out a lot quicker than what you're seeing right now. It's you know, just the constant sort of like drip, 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 drip. So that's why within 2 minutes you'd have a pool of oil this big. So yeah, we were not going to make it home. So luckily I did pull over and have a look. But for those that have been watching this build for from the start, you'll know that the sump does not come off in the car. It's possible we could weld it in the car. It's got to be kind of a danger factor to that I'd imagine as well, but I don't know. But the other option is we pull the engine out and pull the sump off. And if we're pulling the sump off, well, do we go a little bit further? Let's drop it down and explore our options. Until your throat gets sore, jump on the direct express. Well, what are our options? I think we can all agree that the Ute has done exceedingly well up to this point. I mean, the stated aim was always build a mid 8-second car for drag challenge, you know, and run the 850 class. Well, it ran mid 8s straight up, you know. It came third in its class at drag challenge. It come 13th overall. It's come runner up at Kenda. It's come third at Summernats in, you know, pretty much the toughest dyno competition in Australia. So the Ute has done pretty well, but we are starting to exceed its power level, or what, you know, the engine was built for. I mean, sevens is definitely a goal, and we could probably push it for sevens, but we might kill it as well. We don't know, because, you know, it's got K1 rods, K1 crank, Wiseco pistons, all good gear, but even K1 say the rods are about good for 1300 flywheel. We're making about 1500 now, or a bit over, to be honest. So we are pushing this engine harder than its components are designed for. So I figure I'd like to pull the engine out, fix that sump, just go through a couple other things and have a look and see how it's going. You know, pull the bearings out, have a look at those, but maybe put some stronger rods, stronger crank in it. You know, we've done pretty good up to this point, and I don't think anyone would like to see it die. I mean, we don't want to test it to destruction. That's not a good way to go. So I'm going to see if the bosses will let us put some good rods, pistons and crank in it, and then we can confidently send it deep into the sevens. That would be good. But, you know, the build's gone further than we thought. You know, originally the scope was 15 episodes. Well, I think we've done about 30 episodes, And I think you guys are all a bit tired of it at the moment. We have noticed the views drop off on the videos a little bit. So we'll park it up for a little bit while we decide what we're going to do. We'll fix the sump regardless. You know, we are going to try and push it to the 7s, but like I said, let us know. What do you think? You know, should we push it the way it is? I think that's a bad idea. I don't think we should push it the way it is. I mean, it will go 7s, I have no doubt. It's gone 849, 165. That was at 22 pounds. We just put 28 pounds into it on the dyno. Thing's still alive. I think we can go a 7 with it as is. However, that would not be a long-term thing. You know, you couldn't just repeatedly shove it into the 7s. I think it would definitely die. So I think it's a good idea at this point, put better rods, pistons, crank in it and take it out and shove it deep into the 7s. What do you think of that? Let us know in the comments, but whatever happens, you'll see it on a future episode of Carnage.